Not the Congress. It is not the courts. It is the American people. It is all of us, each of us. Fear is Donald Trump's weapon of choice. Divide and conquer is his one repugnant strategy. Law firm against law firm, media outlet against media outlet, neighbor against neighbor. He counts on us being too scattered to oppose him, too scared of a truth social media post or an executive order, or the very real threat of physical harm for anyone to push back.
Before we get into this, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Capital Truthline, and share it, because moments like this are exactly why independent media matters. What you're about to hear is calm, factual, and absolutely devastating to one of the biggest political lies of our time.
Society that we live in today, it takes a lot of courage to say that you're supporting President Trump. And you know, it's really quite interesting how people have tried to manipulate people and how to intimidate people and change their minds. This has been going on since we've been in America. You know, you go back to the days of slavery, you know, and in a lot of the states there were more slaves than there were owners. So what did they do? They had to divide the slaves. So they told the ones in the house, you're better than the ones in the yard. And the ones in the yard, you're better than the ones in the field. And then after slavery was over, the light-skinned ones, you're better than the dark-skinned ones. And on it went, trying to divide people. Today, they say, if you are a conservative, then you are somehow an Uncle Tom, you're a horrible person, you're a demon. What a bunch of crap, you know, but, you know, it's been going on for hundreds of years. And it's really time to put a stop to it. So I am very happy to see that you have the courage to come out. You know, it doesn't bother me anymore because, you know, I only worry about what God thinks. I don't worry about what these other people think. But, you know, sometimes people ask me, what happened to you? You changed. I haven't changed. I changed about 35 years ago because, you see, I grew up in Detroit, a bastion of liberalism. They call it progressivism now. They keep changing the name. But anyway, then from there to Boston, a bastion of liberalism. Back to Detroit, and then to New Haven, Connecticut, a bastion of liberalism, and then to Ann Arbor, Michigan, a bastion of liberalism, and then to Baltimore, Maryland, a bastion of liberalism. So I had no chance. I was a liberal. I was way out there. And then I did something that liberals are never supposed to do. I listened to a conservative. I listened to Ronald Reagan. And I said, you know, he doesn't sound like a horrible racist person. He sounds just like my mother. And at that point, I started thinking for myself. And that made a big difference. It made a big difference in my medical career, too. I didn't do what everybody else did. I always started thinking out of the box. How do you solve this problem? And that's the reason that God gave us these complex brains. Your brain has billions and billions of neurons, hundreds of billions of interconnections. It remembers everything you've ever seen, everything you've ever heard. It can process more than 2 million bits of information in 1 second. Would God give you something like that just so that you can be a sheep and follow what somebody else tells you to do? Or to think for yourself? And you know, don't you find it fascinating that so many people say the president's a racist? He's a horrible racist and everything he does. Well, you know, it seems to me like some years ago, Jesse Jackson actually gave the president an award in New York City because he opened so many opportunities for black people. Is that what a racist does? And then when he moved to Palm Beach, he was right on the forefront to fighting the clubs who were not admitting Jews and blacks. Does that sound like what a racist would do? He is the one who finally got the Second Chance Act done. Does that sound like what a racist would do? When he took office, he brought the office of HBCUs to the White House so it could get appropriate attention, more money than ever. Opportunity zones so that people could take this money and direct it to the places where people did not have opportunities before. An economy where you have the lowest unemployment rates for black people in history. And it goes on and on and on. Let me tell you something. If he's a racist, he's an awfully bad one. He needs to go get a lesson from the real racists. The people who look at somebody like you and me and they say, because your skin is a certain color, you have to think a certain way. And if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And they start calling you names. Those are the real racists. But you know, the president believes that a rising tide lifts all boats. He doesn't believe in identity politics, and that's why he's doing things that work for everybody. And we should be happy about that. And the media, they like to pick on him, any little thing. You know, he's not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. The only one who ever was perfect was Jesus, and they crucified him. So, you know, think about this. And we need to just look at the big picture. Think about all the incredible things that are happening. Think for ourselves and be missionaries. Go out and talk to your family, talk to your friends, help them to realize, because see, if all they're doing is looking at certain media, they don't even know about these things that we just talked about that he has done. And so they can perpetrate this horrible image of him being a bad person. It is absolutely not true. I work with him all the time. He's a wonderful person. He's become a good friend. You remember during the campaign when we were having a debate and I couldn't hear my name. I came out, I stood there, I was waiting to hear everybody else gleefully walk past. He was the only one who stood with me until they straightened it out. That's the kind of person that our president is.
Watch this carefully, because this moment tells you everything the media doesn't want you to understand about power, fear, and control in modern politics. For years, we've been told that Donald Trump is an authoritarian, a racist, and an existential threat to America. And we're told the only defense against him is the media, the courts, or Washington insiders. But Ben Carson completely dismantles that narrative without raising his voice even once. What Carson starts with is courage, and that matters. Because in today's America, courage doesn't look like shouting slogans or flooding social media with outrage. Courage looks like standing calmly in a hostile environment and refusing to repeat lies just to fit in. He explains something that's absolutely critical to understand. Division is not new. It's not accidental. It's a strategy. It has always been a strategy. Throughout American history, whenever people in power felt threatened, they divided the population. Slave against slave. Class against class. Skin tone against skin tone. Because a divided people are easier to manipulate and easier to control. That same tactic is being used today. If you're a conservative, especially if you don't fit the approved political identity, you're not debated. You're attacked. You're labeled. You're dismissed. You're told what you're allowed to think based on how you look or where you come from. Ben Carson knows this firsthand. He grew up surrounded by liberal institutions. Detroit, Boston, Yale, Ann Arbor, Baltimore. He admits he accepted progressive ideology because that's all he was exposed to. Until he did something that modern politics treats as unforgivable. He listened to the other side. He listened to Ronald Reagan. And instead of finding a racist monster like the media promised, he heard ideas that sounded familiar. Responsibility, opportunity, faith, personal agency. The same values his mother raised him with. That moment changed how he thought. Not just politically, but professionally. It taught him to question consensus, to think critically, and to solve problems instead of repeating approved talking points. Then Carson asks the question the media refuses to answer honestly. If Donald Trump is such a racist villain, why does the record show the opposite? Why was Trump recognized years ago for expanding opportunities for Black Americans? Why did he fight discrimination in private clubs long before it was popular? Why did his administration increase funding for HBCUs? Why did opportunity zones bring investment into neglected communities? Why did Black unemployment reach historic lows under his presidency? Carson doesn't yell these facts. He doesn't demand applause. He simply presents them and lets reality do the work. And then comes the line that exposes the entire lie. If Trump is a racist, he's an incredibly bad one. Because real racism isn't about results. It's about control. It's about telling people how they're allowed to think based on the color of their skin. It's about punishing independence and enforcing ideological obedience. That's the kind of racism the media never condemns. Carson makes it clear that Trump believes in results over identity politics, in opportunity over grievance, in lifting everyone instead of dividing everyone. And that's why the media hates moments like this.